Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hello guys, today I am going to explain you about the detailed information of statistics. Now let's start this. Methodology for collection, presentation and analysis of data is called as statistics. What does the word mean? Statistics means this is the main definition. Remember this point. And the data that approximates and characterizes and is non-numerical in nature and non-measurable is qualitative. Qualitative means non-measurable and non-numerical. Quantitative means the data which is there in the form of count or numbers. Values are measured here. It is in the numerical form. It is measured. Quantitative means the amount is there, how much it is. And qualitative means just the characteristics, not the amount of that is present in it. Next, descriptive statistics. Statistical technique that summarizes and organizes the data. Next, in population study, the totality of all objects are considered. It is the population study. Next, a study based on complete enumeration of data is known as pilot survey. Primary data. Primary data is the data that is collected for the first time through personal experiences or evidence, particularly in for research, and it is also described as a raw data or first hand information is called primary. Means it is the raw data or first where the person is collected the information, that is the primary data. Next, secondary data means secondary data is a second hand data that is already collected and recorded in some researches, and for that purpose it is in the form of data collected from the different sources such as government publications, census, internal records of the organization, books, general articles, websites, reports, etc. The process of representing the raw data of quantitative variable in organization way is called frequency distribution. And the pictorial representation of data in the form of vertical or horizontal bars. Pictorial means bar diagrams. That is quantitative means it is the frequency. Next, the graph that represents the data in a circular means pie diagram. It is in the form of circular. Next, the data represented by sector for rectangles and adjacent to each other, and where each bar represent a kind of data referred as histogram. Next, it is the bar diagram. Next, it is a graph constructed by using the lines to join the midpoints of each interval is called frequency polygon. Means what are the lines we are using to join the midpoints. Here to join these midpoints, what are the lines we are using? These are called frequency polygon. Next, frequency curve means this is the frequency curve what we are drawing here. It is the frequency curve. The graph is obtained by joining the points of frequency polygon by a freehand smooth curve. By a freehand, it is called frequency curve. Next, the graphs that are used to estimating the number of observations which are less than or equal to the particular value, which is less than or equal to particular value, it is called ogive. This is the ogive, sorry. Next, measures of central tendency. Central tendency is defined as the statistical measure that represents the entire distribution or data set using a single value. Here you can observe this mid value. It is a single value. It is the central tendency. How will measure by using a single value? It is called measures of central tendency, or individual observations in a group, or tendency to very near to particular value. It is the central tendency. Next, mean means all of you know that sum of all observations divided by the total number of observations. If you see one example, 1, 5, 8, 3 is there. How we can find the median value in these values? Means you have to write it in ascending or descending order. If we take like 1, 3, 5 and 8. Here which is the median value? Both 3 and 5, both are in the middle. If you have another number like something 10 like that, here means 5 is the middle value. you can take the single value directly. Otherwise, if you have the two values, then you can place the two values and divide it by 2. 3 plus 5 means 8 by 2. How much it is? The value is 4 is the middle value. You can calculate the median in this way. This is the median value. You have to arrange from smallest to the largest, and the number in the middle is the median. If there are two numbers, I said no, you have to add them and divide it by 2. It is the median. Median curve means the point of intersection of the frequency distribution curve is the median. Next, the most frequently occurring value in a data set. How many times more than other numbers it occurs in the value set? It is the mode. Here you can observe this example. Here 5 is repeating 3 times, other values are 2 times and 1 time, like this. So 5 is the mode value. Mode in a data set they are asking. Here 4 is 3 times, 9 and 15 3 times, and 27, 37, these are all 1 times. So 4 and 15 both are as a mode, because both are occurring frequently many times than other numbers. Next, mode can be located graphically using the histogram. Next, mode is a value of a frequency which processes maximum frequency. Next, range. Range is the difference between the largest and smallest value is called the range. It is the difference between largest and smallest value. Next, quartile deviation. Quartile means half of the interquartile range is quartile deviation, and this it is the half of the distance between the third and the first quartile. This is the quartile value. Q3 and Q1 is the interquartile range values. Next, mean deviation means it is the statistical measure that is used to calculate the average deviation of value from the mean value of the given data set. Have to take the mean value, and you should use this formula and you should calculate the mean deviation. It is the best measure of dispersion. Next, variance. Variance, it is a measure of how far a set of data are dispersed out from their mean or average value. It is denoted as a sigma square. Next, if the values of sample are same, then it varies become 0. If standard deviation means it is the degree of dispersion or the scatter of the data points relative to its mean. It is the standard deviation. The standard deviation of a sample is the square root of variance. Next, standard deviation is commonly SD. It is a sigma. Square root of variance means what is the indication of variance? It is a sigma squares. It is square root means both are cut, and then standard deviation is the sigma. Next, coefficient of variation means coefficient of variation is a statistical measure of the dispersion of data points in a data series around the mean, which is present around the mean. You have to calculate and measure it. The coefficient of variation represents the ratio of the standard deviation to the mean. It is useful statistic for comparing the degree of variation from one data series to another if the mean are drastically different from one another. Let's see this coefficient of variation. It is a relative measure of dispersion. It is a formula. What does this symbol indicates? It is the standard deviation by mean. It is the CV, means coefficient of variation. Skewness. Skewness means lack of symmetry. In mathematics, a figure is called the symmetric if it divides the figure into two equal parts, identical in all respect of one part can be superimposed on the other, mirror images of each other. It is the measures of symmetry of data. Kurtosis means it is a measure of flatness of distribution. The degree of kurtosis of a distribution, it is measured relative to that of a normal curve. The curves with greatest peakedness, that is than the normal curve, it is the leptokurtic, and the curves more flat than the normal curve, it is the flatykurtic. Now let's see in a diagrammatical way. If we see this is a normal curve which is the leptokurtic, and it is the leptokurtic and it is the flatykurtic. Because leptokurtic, it is more peakedness, it is the leptokurtic, and it is smaller one is very flat, so it is a platykurtic. This is called kurtosis. Next, probability. All of you know this probability is a chance or likelihood of a particular outcome out of a number of possible outcomes occurring for a given event is the probability. Probability means number of favorable outcomes by number of all possible outcomes. Example, we can take these cards. We have to calculate these in a number of favorable outcomes. How many favorable outcomes are there here? And you have to calculate with all possible outcomes. Here it's range from 0 to 1. Next, mutually exclusive or disjoint events. Here in this probability, mutually exclusive means these are the events which cannot occur at the same time. The occurrence of one event automatically prevents the occurrence of other event. For mutually exclusive events, the intersection of events is empty. There are no common events. Passing and failing the same examination is the mutually exclusive. It is an example. If we see, if you written the exam, you can pass or fail in a one chance. At the same time, both events cannot occur. Only a single event can occur. If you written an exam, you can pass or fail. Single event can occur in a same time. It is a mutually exclusive. Mutually exclusive events means occurrence of one event prevents the occurrence of other events. If one event can occur, it prevents the other. It is a mutually simple definition. Next, non-mutually exclusive means these are events which can occur simultaneously, but the occurrence of one event does not prevent the occurrence of other event. Both occur means one cannot prevent the other. In the mutually means one can prevent other and both cannot occur at the same time. Here let's see the example. In tossing a fair die once, get an odd number or a greater than 2 are not non-mutually exclusive events. It is possible for the number to be odd and at the same time being greater than 2. If you say that it is greater than 2 means if you toss 2 dice, you can get any number. It is maybe odd or any number. It is not a mutually exclusive. One cannot prevent the other number. Next, an individual can have a more than one bank account. If you have an open bank account, then it does not prevent you from opening another account with another bank. It is also an example of non-mutually exclusive. Next, independent events means you have to remember these formulas. It is very important for solving the problems in the JRF. Now let's do this. Occurrence of one event will not affect the occurrence of other events. It is the formula for this independent events. Dependent events means it is one value is depend on the other event. If events A and B are independent, then PAB and PA and PB, it is a dependent events. Next, simple correlation. Simple correlation means statistical tool to study the degree of association or relationship existing between the two variables. When the relationship is linear or approximately linear, the degree of relationship is quantified by a coefficient called the Carrel-Perens product movement correlation coefficient, or simply the correlation coefficient is denoted by R. It's the coefficient of correlation. It is used to compare the constancy of two or more sets of data. The value of coefficient of correlation is -1 to +1. Remember these values, it is very important. And next, ranks correlation coefficient means it is a coefficient to measure the degree of relationship between the two sets of data. It measures the degree of relationship between the two sets of data by using the ranks of observation. Next, regression. Regression is defined as a statistical method that is used to analyze and understand the relationship between the two or more variables of interest. In regression, we normally have one dependent variable and one or more independent variables. Here we try to understand how the value of y changes with respect to the value of x. Next, linear regression. Linear means it is a linear approach to measure the relationship between the two or more variables to predict the value of a variable. To predict the value of variable, we require this linear regression. Next, for the regression analysis, it is to be successful method. We understand the following terms: the length and the weight relationship of fishes. Let's see the example. Dependent variable means weight of the fish. Dependent variable is y. Next, independent means length of the fish. Length of the fish is independent. Weight means it is based on its length. Next, regression equation for, remember these values, y is equals to a plus bx and a plus by. It is the values. Next, binomial distribution means the probability theory and statistics. The binomial distribution is a probability distribution that gives only two possible results in an experiment, either success or failure. It is the distribution is known as binomial. Binomial means it is only two possible results occur at the same time. By means two. Two results occur in the same time, either success or failure. If there are two parameters n and p here in a binomial distribution, the variables n states the number of times the experiment runs and the variable p tells the probability of any one outcome. It is the value of n and p. Formula. Remember this formula, it is very important for calculation of sums problems and binomial distribution. Next, Poisson distribution means in Poisson distribution the variable can only take specific values, probably infinite. The probability of occurrence of an event, it is very small, and n, the number of trails, is very large. Then the binomial distribution tend to a Poisson distribution. When the occurrence of event is very small means how many number of trails is very large, but the event is very small. It is a binomial distribution. In that only it is a Poisson distribution. Next, it is used to understand the certain conditions. The number of trails is the infinity. Probability of success p is very less. It tends to 0, like that. It is very less. Value is 1 and other is more. It is infinity. In binomial distribution, I think both are in near to same values, 2 and 3, like this. But here the n is equals to infinity means it is more than any numbers, and p is very less, like 0. It is a Poisson distribution. Next, normal distribution means sometimes called a bell curve. Bell curve is a normal distribution. We can observe this curve in the graph. It is the distribution that occurs naturally in many situations. Normal distribution, it is in bell shape. Remember this formula. Next, test of significance or test of hypothesis. It is a procedure of comparing the observed data with claim. Comparing the observed data with claim is the test of significance. Hypothesis means quantitative statement about the population. How much population is there? How you will give the quantitative statement about that population. It is the hypothesis. In that only two types, null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis, it proposes that there is no difference between the certain characteristics of population or data. No difference in between the two characteristics. It is the null hypothesis. It is a statement that indicates that no statistical difference between the two possible outcomes. It is a H-proof. Example, if you see the example, suppose an experiment is conducted to check if girls are shorter than boys at the age of 5. Then the null hypothesis will say that they are same height and there is no difference between their height. Null means saying the wrong data. If the girls are shorter than boys, but null hypothesis say that both are in same height. It is only the null hypothesis. It say the wrong data. Alternative hypothesis means it is the alternative hypothesis is an alternative to the null hypothesis. It is opposite to null. Means it indicates that there is a statistical significance difference between the two possible outcomes and denoted as H1 or HA. It is less than the null hypothesis or more than the null. Null means if we remember null is 0. Then this statistical hypothesis is less than 0 means -1 or more than 0 means +1. It is the statistical hypothesis. 0 is the null hypothesis. Next, suppose an experiment is conducted to check if girls are shorter than the boys. Then at the age of 5, the alternative hypothesis will say that girls are shorter than boys. It will say the exact value. Yes, the girls are shorter than boys. But null hypothesis will not say. It will say the approx value. No, both are same, like that. Standard error means it is a standard deviation of a sampling distribution. The testing of hypothesis in three tests, in z-test, t-test and chest-square test. Types of errors. We are having the two types of errors, reject null hypothesis and accept null hypothesis. Next, degree of freedom, logical independent value. The z-test, it is a test that is used to check the means of two populations are different or not provided the data following a normal distribution. For this purpose, the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis will be set up and the value of z statistic and must be calculated. The decision criterion is based on the z critical value. Based on the z value, it is used to check the means of population in a different or non-provided data. Without any data, it can calculate the population value using the z test. By using simple random sampling means every member of a population can have an equal chance of being selected. It is a simple randomly we can sample that. Next, systematic sampling means every member of a population it is listed with a number, but instead of randomly generating numbers individually are chosen at a rectangular intervals. It is a systematic. If we see an example, if you have these many members in a community, then how can you take this simple sampling and systematic sampling means simple means you can calculate like randomly simple from there one person here one person like this, but systematic means one by one you can calculate by each number in a orderly you can calculate it is a systematic. Next, stratified sampling means it involves dividing the population into subpopulation. If you have 10 members, you can divide them as 5 in a two groups, 5 in one group and 5 in other group. Like this you can divide the subpopulations and then you can calculate this. If you have more numbers in a community, you can use this stratified sampling. Now, cluster sampling. Cluster means also involves dividing the populations into subgroups, but each subgroup should have similar characteristics to the whole sample. Instead of sampling the individuals from one each subgroup, you randomly select entire subgroups. Not only selecting the 1 and 2 like this subgroups, you can select the entire subgroups is called cluster sampling. It is same as stratified sampling. Okay, thank you everyone.